I picked up this Multiscale Ligator Ninja over half a year ago. While it's a decent guitar, the biggest problem I can't get over are the pickups. They sound like garbage. While replacing pickups in a guitar isn't very difficult, finding an angled set that fits a multi-scale guitar can be next to impossible. I do have this straight set of DiMarzio pickups that I'm going to try to modify to fit into this guitar. Let's see if it works. In order to modify these pickups, let's take a quick look at the anatomy of a pickup. A typical humbucker consists of bobbins with windings, not shown, pole pieces, magnets, metal spacers, plastic shims, and a base plate. In order to get these pickups to fit into this guitar, I need to install a new base plate. If you're familiar with multi-scale guitars at all, you might know the pickup angle can change between manufacturers or even models. So finding a base plate to fit this guitar is next to impossible. But since the pickups in this guitar are garbage, I'm going to salvage the base plates from these pickups and install everything else from the DiMarzios onto them. There is a good chance I'll need to modify the base plates, but we'll get there when we get there. In order to swap over these base plates, we'll need a screwdriver, soldering iron, solder, some pliers, a knife, some insulating tape cloth, and a pair of scissors. There are links to everything in the description. If I need to modify the base plates, I may need a drill and possibly a rotary tool like a Dremel. Obviously, I first need to remove these pickups from the guitar. I will release in another video on how to replace pickups, actually these pickups, because you all might already know how to do that. If not, sorry that you have to go watch another video. If you don't want to miss that video, make sure to subscribe. Now that we have the pickups out of the cavities, we can go ahead and compare them. Comparing the neck pickup with the Air Norton, the Ligator has a thicker, flat base plate, whereas the Air Norton has a thinner, offset plate. The Ligator also has foam blocks attached to the bottom to raise the pickup. There are 4 screws visible on the Air Norton to attach the bobbins. Removing the foam on the Ligator, we can see the same screws. The foam will need to be replaced. Fortunately, I have some lying around. I will definitely need to drill holes in the base plate for the pole piece screws. Moving on to the bridge pickup and crunch lab, we have some of the same differences with the thicker, flat base plate and foam blocks. The bobbin screw heads on the bar side are slightly larger, which means I may need to drill those holes bigger. I'll also need to drill holes for the pole piece screws. To disassemble the pickups, I'll cut off and remove the insulation tape that wraps around the pickups. After removing the bobbin screws on the Ligators, I can separate the bobbins from the base plate with just a little force. The bobbins, magnets, and spacers came off in one chunk, and we can see the ground wire is soldered to the base plate. I tried to heat up the solder joint to remove the ground wire, but could not get it hot enough, most likely due to lead-free solder. I tested an area with leaded solder and it worked, so I just cut the ground wire off and plan to grind off the solder. Removing the bobbins from the Air Norton, I needed to take out the pole piece screws a little so they weren't sticking through the base plate. I didn't need to do this on the crunch lab. The magnets stayed attached to the base plates and the spacer rings were loose. I'll make sure not to lose those spacer rings because I'll need them for the other base plates. The bar pole piece on the crunch lab was in direct contact with the base plate, so no spacers were on that side. I was able to use a soldering iron to remove the ground wire on the Air Norton base plate, but struggled with the crunch lab. There was enough wire exposed that I could cut the wire off and still have enough for the next base plate. The magnets looked to be held on with wax and were easy to take off. The DiMarzio bobbins are held together with what looks like hot glue. They'll need to be separated so they can be offset when installing them. I was able to take them apart and remove the hot glue without heating it up or damaging the bobbins. Comparing the screw hole spacings on the base plates, they look to be very close, but I'm unable to mount the DiMarzio bobbins on either plate, so I'll need to slightly open up the holes to fit them. Let's get to modifying the base plates. The first thing I'll do to each base plate is use a Dremel to grind off that solder. I'll then drill the hole the wires run through a little larger. It was just a touch too small for the new wires. Next, I'll drill the bobbin mounting holes larger as well. The holes for the 4 screws on the Air Norton plate and the holes for the 2 small screws on the crunch lab will only go up 1 drill size, and the holes for the 2 larger screws on the crunch lab will go up a couple sizes. The next thing I'll need to do is drill holes for the pole piece screws. To do this, I'll remove the screws from the bobbins, mount the bobbins to the base plate with the spacers, then use a drill bit that just fits in the holes and touch the tip of the drill bit to the base plate. I'm not going to drill all the way through yet. This is just to get the location of the holes. Then I'll remove the bobbins, use a drill bit that's a touch larger than the screws, and drill through the base plate. That wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Now that the base plates are modified, it's time to reassemble the pickups. I'll first run the wires through the base plates, make sure they go the right way. Note the wire will run along the outer edge of the base plate. Then I'll mark where I'm going to solder the ground wire to the base plate, making sure the wire will still reach both bobbins when mounted. Using my soldering iron, I'll add some solder to that spot, then solder the ground wire to the base plate. Then I'll place the magnet on the base plate and mount the bobbins, making sure the pole piece screws are screwed out enough so they don't touch the base plate. Don't forget to use those spacers. After the bobbins are loosely mounted, I'll double check the magnet to make sure it's roughly in the center of the bobbins. I'll then tuck the remaining wires under the bobbin on the opposite side of where the wire comes in and tighten down that bobbin. I'll screw in the pole piece screws on the other side, then tighten that bobbin down. The last thing to do is install the insulation tape. Using the insulation tape I got off Amazon, I'll make sure to keep the tape on the underside of the top bobbin faces. The adhesive on the back makes it really easy to install. The last thing I need to do is install foam on the bottom of the base plates. I had this foam sitting in my tackle box for my build. I never put them in. I'll cut each piece in half and put one half on each side of the pickup. And just like that, we have a set of pickups ready to go back in the guitar. If you want to see me put them back in the guitar, make sure to like and subscribe so you're notified when that video comes out, or check it out over here if it's already been released. But until next time, rock on.